Have you ever noticed how calm the world feels early in the morning? The streets are empty, the air is cold, and everything feels peaceful, almost safe. That feeling can trick your mind into relaxing. You believe nothing bad could happen so early in the day. But sometimes that calm isn't peace at all. Sometimes it's the perfect cover for someone who doesn't want to be seen. People always ask why I jog so early in the morning. Honestly, I don't know anymore. Maybe it's the silence before the world wakes up. Or maybe it's because my dog, Buzzo, won't let me sleep past 6. That morning felt normal at first, just another cold winter jog, until I realized the fog was much thicker than usual. This wasn't the kind of fog you could easily see through. It was heavy and dense like a wall. I could barely see a few feet ahead of me. The trees disappeared into shadows, and the cornfields beside the path turned into dark shapes that felt endless and unsettling.
Buzzo didn't seem scared. His tail wagged as he sniffed the frozen ground, his collar softly jingling. I pulled my hoodie tighter and told myself we'd do a quick lap and go home. The cold air burned my lungs, and the only sound was our footsteps breaking the silence. Then I heard something else, a rustling sound coming from the cornfield. It wasn't the wind. It didn't sound like an animal either. It sounded heavier. I stopped walking. Buzzo stopped too. The fog swallowed every sound, and suddenly the silence felt wrong. Buzzo's body went stiff, and a deep growl came from his chest. I had never heard that sound from him before. It wasn't playful or curious, it was a warning. I gently pulled his leash and told him we should turn back because the fog was getting worse. Before I could react, Buzzo suddenly bolted forward. The leash slipped out of my hand, and he disappeared straight into the cornfield. I shouted his name and ran after him, crashing through frozen stalks, completely lost inside the fog. I heard Buzzo barking wildly, louder than I'd ever heard before. Then another sound mixed with it, a man screaming in pain. My heart jumped into my throat as I pushed deeper into the corn, barely able to breathe. I burst into a clearing and froze. Buzzo stood in front of a man curled on the ground. His teeth were bared, fur raised, shaking with rage. A rusty knife lay in the mud, and blood dripped from the man's hand onto the ground. That's when I noticed the rope hidden in leaves, a torn backpack, and footprints circling the clearing. This man wasn't attacked, he was waiting. The police later told me he'd been hiding along jogging trails for weeks. If Buzzo hadn't reacted, I would have walked right past him, just like every other morning. I'm 29 years old, and what happened during my morning walk changed the way I look at people forever. I used to believe that if someone asked for help, especially early in the morning, they truly needed it. I believed danger looked obvious. I was wrong. Sometimes danger speaks softly, shakes with fear, and waits for you to step closer. I walk the same trail every day before work. It loops around a calm lake, cuts through a thick forest, and then opens into a grassy clearing. That morning felt peaceful. The sky was pink, the air was cold, and everything felt normal, like nothing bad could ever happen there. As I passed the old picnic benches, I suddenly heard branches snapping behind me. I froze and turned around. A woman slowly stumbled out of the woods. She was barefoot, covered in dirt, her face bruised and scratched. She was shaking so badly that I could hear her teeth clicking together. Her voice cracked as she whispered that someone was trying to kill her. She begged me for help. I tried to stay calm so I wouldn't scare her, but fear spread through my chest. Without letting her see, I slipped my hand into my pocket and quietly dialed 911, letting the operator listen. She grabbed my arms tightly, her fingers digging into my skin. She kept looking over her shoulder toward the trees like something was following her. She told me she left her bag in the woods and asked me to go back with her. Something about the way she said it made my stomach turn. Before I could answer, I heard slow footsteps coming from the woods. A tall man stepped out between the trees. He was holding a shovel, and the blade was covered in fresh dirt. He didn't look angry or surprised. He just stared at us in silence. The woman immediately hid behind me, crying harder, begging me not to let him take her. My heart was pounding so loudly I could barely hear anything else. Then, without saying a single word, the man calmly turned around and walked back into the woods. That scared me more than if he had run. Minutes later, police arrived. They searched the woods and found rope, footprints, and a half-dug hole in the ground. One officer quietly asked me something strange, if the woman ever asked me to call the police. When I said no, his face went serious. I turned to look at the woman, and my blood went cold. She wasn't shaking anymore. She wasn't crying. She stood completely still, watching me with calm, empty eyes. The officer whispered the truth. She wasn't running from that man. She was working with him to lure people into the woods. She was arrested, but the man escaped. That's the part that still haunts me. I almost followed her into those woods when she mentioned her bag. I still walk sometimes, but never early, never near forests, and never alone. Because now I know help can be a trap. Most people think danger hides in dark alleys or abandoned buildings. I used to think that too. I never imagined it could happen in a bright public park, in the middle of the morning, with people walking nearby. I always go for morning walks through Riverside Park. That day felt normal until I saw a woman walking with a small boy. She leaned down and told him to wait on a bench while she went to get cotton candy. It sounded harmless. About 20 minutes later, my route curved back toward the same bench. The boy was still there. He sat quietly, swinging his legs and counting on his fingers, trying not to cry. That's when I knew something was wrong. Before I could speak to him, the woman returned with a rough-looking man. They stood close and spoke quietly. I didn't mean to listen, but what I heard made my stomach drop. The woman said she couldn't afford to feed the boy anymore. The man told her buyers wanted a kid his age. I watched him hand her money while she avoided looking at her own child. The boy started crying as the man lifted him and walked toward a black van parked near the exit. I followed them, my hands shaking as I called the police and whispered everything I had seen. Before the police could arrive, the man shoved the boy inside the van and slammed the door shut. I didn't stop to think. I ran forward, opened the door, and grabbed the child. The man attacked me immediately. He punched my face and my ribs, but I refused to let go of the boy. I shielded him with my body while people nearby started to notice and shout. The man fled, leaving the child behind. At the police station, the boy wouldn't let go of me. When I stood up to leave, he wrapped his arms around my leg and begged me not to abandon him. 6 months later, he lives with me. He calls me Dad. People ask why I took responsibility for him. They never heard his voice shaking when he begged me not to leave. I hold his hand tightly now because nobody is ever taking him away again. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe my channel. See you on next videos. Till then, goodbye.